to a business with over 70 franchises, representing 20 brands and employing around 2,000 people, selling just over 30,000 vehicles a year. But beyond the scale of the business, what stands out is the philosophy behind it, a strong focus on customer service, on people, on partnerships, and on building something that lasts. Brad, thank you so much for joining us. It really is a privilege to have you with us.
Ron, thanks, and good evening, and good evening to everyone listening in. I think right after that introduction, we can close the interview. I can go home.
Well, you've been at it a long time, Brad, so let's maybe go right back to the beginning. How did it all start? How did it begin?
So I finished school, went to university, and when I was at Wits Business School, I did an MBA there in the 80s. I met one of the lecturers who was a CEO of a listed company. He was a guest lecturer there, and he suggested that I give him a call when I came out of the Air Force, which was compulsory at the time. And I looked him up, and I went to see him. I actually had an offer to join Nedbank. Um, Came through like shortly before that, and I think I was well set on that. And then I went to see the CEO of a listed company, and they kind of said, look, you don't know anything about the business. We'll teach you. Join us for 2 years. We'll see how it goes. They paid me the same as what Nedbank offered. And then when they gave me a company car, I said, I'll take the job. That was that. When I went home to my wife, she said, look, what do they do? I said, I have no idea. I really don't know, but I'm sure I'll work that out. So that's maybe how it all started. And if you said, was I a car enthusiast? No. Was I a business enthusiast? Yes. And well, I thought I was. I am actually. So that's where it started quite a few years back. And I then worked for them for a good 11 and a half years after that.
And I mean, you became a dealer principal at 26. So, what did you do differently early on that set you on that, that path of leadership?
Look, I think they were crazy, to be honest. I mean, I was really young, to be, and I look back, I think, sure, they had some confidence in me, so I think they were crazy. I think I was probably about 2 years too young, but because it's quite a big task. But what they did ask me to do was to build a dealership, and that exposed me to the world of property. And we obviously, property developers is a big part of who we are today because we own most of our own properties. So we buying land and developing as we go. So pretty much it was a good opportunity, but I was very young. And you could say, well, what did I do in those 2 years or 2.5 years before that? I was a trainee, I was learning the business, many experiences. I was just working hard, trying to put my best foot forward, and many experiences along the way. Many, I can tell you one, I can recall being at the used car, one of their biggest used car business in the south of Johannesburg on the M2 East. They had like almost a bazaar there. And I remember the manager calling in the team and saying, guys, we've got, I don't know, we've got so many old age stocks. The old age stock in the motor industry is anything over 3 months. They had a whole bunch of stuff. And he said, if the team, anyone in the team sells 3 units of the old age stock, will give you a 500 Rand bonus. Now, in 1987, that was a lot of money. That was my rent. So let me tell you, it was a lot. So I popped up and said, well, if I can sell 3, can I get the 500 Rand? I mean, I was 24. And he looked at me and said, you'll never sell 3, no bloody chance. So I said, well, if I do, he said, well, okay, if you do, I'll organize that through head office. So I didn't fall under his payroll. But anyway, and then the meeting ended, and one of the salespeople, there were 5, came to me and said, can you just step outside for a minute? And I went outside, and there were these 5 guys. I didn't feel threatened, not at all, but they kind of said to me, look, they're under pressure to sell, to earn a living. And if I sell one car, help one customer, I'm taking food out of their mouths, and I dare not do that.
Wow.
So what did I do? I was determined to earn the 500 Rand. So what I did, I never attended to a single customer during working hours, not one. And I used to stay after work. They all used to leave at 5:30, and I used to stay at work until 6:30. Okay. And anyone who came in at that time, well, he had to be a pretty interested buyer because it was late and it was in the middle of winter. It was pitch dark.
Very
And
smart.
and then what I would do is I'd get the keys on a Sunday morning. I'd go and open the dealership there and sit there alone with the security guard outside, and anyone who came by, we'd help. And yes, by the end of that month, I earned the 500 Rand. So I learned that it's not always plain sailing and you have to adjust. Stephen Koster would tell you have to pivot. That's his word, not really mine. But anyway, they gave me the chance and I was a dealer principal and off I went.
Wow. And so how did it all start, on the journey of your own business? I mean, did you leave there? Did you take it over? What was the leap into your own kind of venture?
So I think it was really I don't think I really had any intention to go into my own business, to be honest. There's many entrepreneurs in the corporate space, and I think I was well set on that. They clearly liked me at a high level, and I was making my way up quite quickly. That first dealership I started at, I did pretty well. 2 years later, they promoted me to a very big dealership in the north of Johannesburg, the biggest, and but it was losing money. It was poorly run, and over the years, we turned that around into a really successful business unit. Became the most profitable business they had in the Imperial Group because that's who bought out Saficon is where I started. It was sold, and I think, I was well set. I had no intention of leaving. I was really going to work my way up there and stay in the corporate space. And then what happened was that this is a good lesson, is they put a really good bonus structure in place for us for a few years, and we started to earn really nicely. And then they got a new CEO, and the first thing he did was adjust it and change it. And effectively, it meant I was going to earn less for the same job. I was going to go backwards, And I think at that point, I realized, goodness, I can't work for this lot. The minute you start to do too well, they're gonna look for ways to cut you back. It's a curse to have that culture, to be like that. I don't believe they're like that today, but this is quite a while, since 27, 29 years ago. So that day I went home to my wife and said to her, I think the time has come that I must look for something. And then I approached Volkswagen because I was a Volkswagen dealer. And I had a reputation with them. And then it took about a year of negotiating and talking. And, they would call me up and say, well, look, have you got the money? And I'd be like, yeah, 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 I've got the money. Believe me, I had no money. So it was not the truth. It was a white lie, shall we call it. But, and then eventually, one day, it took about a year, they called me and said, will you fly down to Uitenhage? It's Kariga today, and we want to meet you, the marketing director of so I did. Took a day's leave, flew down, and they asked me for what how I was going to run it, what my thoughts were. And of course, they then said the only opportunity they had for me was in Hatfield. And I said, where's that? I've never heard of that. They said, it's in Pretoria. I was like, are you mad? I'm from Johannesburg. From the northern suburbs of Johannesburg. I went to Wits University. I went to King David Linksfield. Um, I even managed to do the Air Force in Pretoria. Where's Hatfield? They said, no, it's on the east of Pretoria. I was shaken. I honestly didn't want to go there, but they convinced me to go have a look. And it looked the part, right, by Tux University. So I decided to go for it. And that was that. I gave a year's notice to my employers.
So, but I mean, that's a giant leap, Brad. To choose a path having no money, to back yourself, to have the faith and confidence, or I don't know what the word is, but what was going through your mind? What gave you that push to take that leap? And I mean, life would look very different if you never did.
You're right, yes. So I think a bit of naivety, to be honest. I just felt that I was pretty good at running this motor retail business. I'd done it already for probably 10 years or so. And I thought I could do it for myself. I had no understanding of the funding and what would be needed, but I kind of just backed myself to carry it off. So, I mean, but it was naivety, to be honest. I really didn't know what I was actually getting myself into. But we decided to go for it. I mean, I was young, I was 35 by then. I had 4 children at that age and a wife. And sure, when I look back, I think, my goodness, it was an interesting decision. You're right. But I'll tell you something that, I struggled to get any sort of funding because obviously banks they're not venture capitalists. So I really did struggle to get funding. And then in desperation, I phoned a chap who was a senior manager at ABSA, and I used to run with him. We used to run comrades, and he was a good runner. He was older than us, but he kept up in training and wasn't too far behind. And he was a good runner, like 8:20, 8 hours 20 runner, quality runner. And I phoned him in desperation. And he said he'll see what he can do. And the next day, I got a call from ABSA to say they're going to do the deal, give me the property finance, give me the floor plan, and we're on our way. And about 2 years later, after a run one morning, I got in the gym and I bumped into the head of what was Bankfin. Today it's ABSA Vehicle and Asset Finance. It's the financing arm, the retail arm of ABSA. And we were sitting in the steam shower and I knew him. Well, I got to know him and he said to me, Brad, do you know how this, I think answers your question, right? He said, Brad, do you know how you got the finance? I said, no. He said, you phoned Martin. I said, yes, I phoned Martin. So he said to me, well, Martin phoned him. I said, okay. And he said, I was the one that decided to go up the line at ABSA to the board and get them to back you. And I was, okay. And what made you make that decision? I mean, it was 2 years on and we were okay by now, I think. And he said to me, when I look at a business, I look at three things. And this answers your question. It says the first thing I look at is the brand. So the brand here was Volkswagen, and it's a good brand, one of the leading brands in the country. So I said, okay. He said, the second thing that I look at is the location. And Hatfield is like the Sandton of Pretoria, and it's like Junction. It's kind of in between everything in Pretoria. The area is good. Is there a market for the Volkswagen brand in that area? And I have to put a tick to that. I said, and the third thing, he said, the third thing I look at, this is him, and he said, the third thing is the jockey, you. He said, so we knew you, you'd been in the business for 11 years, and you had a good reputation, and you were an honorable, honest person, and you were a very good trader, and I was quite sure that if we gave you the chance, you'd be fine. And that, I think, maybe answered it. So I think maybe I didn't know that overtly, but maybe inside of me, I knew that and kind of thought, well, I'll be fine. But it was a bit naive, and some of the risks and challenges along the way were not easy and tough, certainly in the first couple of years.
Okay, very interesting. So at this point, I'm just going to ask the audience if you have questions. We'll take your questions in a couple of minutes. So just pop them into the Q&A, and they'll pop up on the screen for us, and we'll take them. So Brad, I mean, if you said you've got 4 kids, so if one of your kids came to you at a young age and wanted to, take a large risk and go out on their own venture, what would your advice be? Would you encourage it? Would you be hesitant?
So I think it's a very good question. I think I think if you look at the topic of the discussion tonight, is that I think every person must try and realize their full potential. And that is a very difficult thing to try and do, because do we ever really know what our full potential is? And the last thing you want to do is to overstate your potential in your mind, because you'll go bankrupt. You'll take on something that you can't do. But on the other hand, if you understate your potential, you may underachieve. So it's a very difficult thing, and I'm not sure that anybody ever knows what their potential really is. I would say to them, well, firstly, do they have the qualifications? Do they have the education? Do they have the experience to go into this business? Okay. I know there are stories of people that are really young, that are genius mentality, that have opened a business and done extremely well very quickly. But I don't fall into that category, and most people don't. Okay. And I don't think my kids do into that category. I would say to them that, have you got the education? Have you got the experience? And if you do, okay, then you have to decide what is your potential, and then take it slowly. Take it one step at a time. So in our instance, we had one dealership for 5 years, and then they offered us a second one. So I became partners with the Mtimunye family. And we were comrades runners together. We were best mates, actually, and we remain such. It's been 23-year partnership. But I think it was another 2 years to our third one. And I think by 10 years, I mean, I don't have the dates in front of me, but by 10 years, we maybe had 4. Okay. And by the time we were 23 years old, okay,
Wow.
we had 6 Volkswagen dealerships, 2 commercial and 3 Audi. It's 11, and one MA in truck business, 12. So it took us to get to 12, took us 23 years, and now we have 70 and counting. So
So
you've got to take
how did you take that? How did it scale? And it scaled quickly because,
Yes, I'll tell you. So
mm,
the advice would be just take it one step at a time. Go slowly. Get to the first level, make it work, then maybe go to the second level, maybe go to the third level. Just take it slow because, well, you don't know what your potential is. And keep stretching yourself because maybe you've got more potential. But don't run too quickly. When you run comrades, they say you must avoid the three T's: too soon, too fast, and too something else. I can't remember. I'm too old now. But I think it's too soon, too fast, and too quick or something. But that's what they say, or too much mileage. Anyway,
yeah,
so yeah, too much mileage, too soon, too fast. So and that's results in injury and you miss the race. So I think you got to take it step by step, build up your expertise, build up your experience, build up your knowledge base, build up your reputation, and go slowly. In the beginning, you asked how did we scale it? So I think we got really lucky in a way because, there were some really difficult times along the way. I mean, in 2008 and 9, we had the financial crisis, and you can imagine selling motor vehicles at the price of vehicles is not exactly the ideal business at that time. And it was incredibly hard. We had to really adjust and just get through it. We had to dig deep and just take it day by day and get through it. It was extremely hard, and we were about 10 years old. It was tough. And then the next thing that happened to us was COVID. In terms of
yeah.
crises, it was COVID. So I was on the beach in Mauritius in December, in March, end of March that year, next year. 3 months later, the business was shut. So when you've got a huge salary bill and your business is closed and your income coming in is nil, it's a proper crisis, and
Yeah.
you have to work through that. But where
Is
we
that
got a
why?
bit lucky, what's that?
Is that where you lost your hair from that
No, I
crisis?
lost it years ago. Oh, please. In this industry, forget it. But so I think what happened was that we there was a business called Fury, and it was sold to Supergroup. They bought it. Okay. And then COVID hit, and Supergroup, I'm told, I mean, it's third-hand information, put the brakes on it and said, look, the world's ending. We're going to pause here, and we're going to wait to see what happens. And I think that offended the Fury people, and the deal was off. And then we found out about it, and we approached the Fury people and said, well, what about us? And I knew then that it was a deal we had to do. I knew that. Believe me, I knew that. It was a big deal. We went to Investec. They funded it for us, but we built up the turnover, the profitability, the standing for Investec to do it. It took us a while, but we had got to that point. And I knew we had to do it because we bought our freedom. We were one franchise, VW Audi. It's in one building. We really were, and MAN is part of VW worldwide. We're really in one camp. That there's risk with that. And we felt that anything we wanted to do, had to go and ask permission at Volkswagen and Audi. And once we bought this business, it was we had 13 dealerships. We bought our freedom, and we were able to turn that business around. They were selling about 600 cars a month. We were on about 1,000, but we have taken that business in the last 4 years from 600 to 1,800.
Hmm.
And that's happened through other brands we've taken on. The Chinese have arrived. We've taken on quite a few brands, and in addition to that, we've improved the efficiency dramatically of some of their businesses. So it was a great opportunity for us. And in these past 4 years, we've had a lot of fun, I've got to tell you.
Wow. So on the flip side to starting a business when you're young, is it ever too late to start?
No,
What do you think
no,
about that?
I don't think so, Ryan. I think it isn't. And but look, like I said, entrepreneurship, there's many fantastic entrepreneurs that work for us, and we give them a share of the bottom line, and they their own masters of their own destiny. So there's many top entrepreneurs that work in the private space, that work in corporate, many. And so it's all about what makes you happy. It's all about what what you want to do. And but if you want to go out on your own, there is more risk. Clearly, there's definitely more risk. It isn't for everybody, and that's okay. We employ 2,000 people, and thankfully, it's not for everybody. We'd have no people, you know. So the
Yeah.
truth is that we have fantastic people. We pay them as much as, you know, really top dollar in the industry for top performance. That's our recipe. And but I don't think it's ever too late. I don't. I think as long as you've got a sound mind, you can do whatever you want to do.
So, I mean, 2,000 people, 70 franchises. I mean, one of the things I try and instill is to build an entrepreneurial or ownership mindset, you know, and build leaders. So what is the secret to doing that? Because, you know, any business I find to get to the next level, you've got to build a team of people that are smarter than you and
Yeah.
you know and act as if it's their business and can move quick, can adapt. How did you scale that? I mean, that's quite something.
So we you know we it's a part of our model. You know, we have there's no limit to what a dealer principal or a sales manager or a sales executive for that matter will earn. And we see them each in their own little business, you know. And if a dealer principal could have a big business, they earn a share of the profits, and ultimately we really do see them as partners. So look, we've got a very rigorous recruitment strategy. I think the best people we have is probably come from within, but there have been exceptions. There have, but we do train our people up, and we have built up a very good team because I suppose in any business, our business specifically, you're really only as good as your total team. You know, I mean, we've got lots of dealerships. I'm not there every day. I'm there once every now and again if I'm lucky or if they're lucky. But the truth is that, you know, ultimately, yes, you've got to create a sense of ownership. You've got to pick and recruit the right people. And if you do that, then you're on your way.
Okay. And I mean, I'm sure you've had to make some tough decisions and some big ones. How do you think about responsibility, not just to, you know, the business and shareholders, but to the people? I mean, navigating COVID is probably one, but I'm sure there's been many others.
Look, you've got to accept that responsibility, and I think you've got to act always in the interests of the company and the longevity of the company for the collective. You know, so COVID was a tough time. You know, you were, okay, what are we going to do here? You know, I mean, we've got zero, nothing coming in, and we've got, you know, we've got we didn't have 2,000 on the payroll at that stage. We hadn't bought Fury yet, but we probably had 900,000, 900, something like that. Can't recall exactly, but we had a lot of people. And also, you know, during COVID, sitting listening to webinars like we're doing now, the talk was that when we do open, the market's going to be 30% down. Well, when you do the mathematics and you plug that into our model and you take 30% out of your gross margin, you've got too many people. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. You know, so but we worked through it step by step, try to be as fair as we could to as many as we could, and got the business into better shape. And when we did come back, the turnover was 20% down. It didn't hit 30%. I think we were geared for 30%, and when it only dropped 20%, we were actually in a great space when we did open. And thankfully for us, it was only 2 odd months that we were closed. But look, you've got to make tough decisions. You can't, and I think it's like that along the way. You can't be a dealer principal and not make tough decisions. You can't be a regional franchise executive and not make tough decisions. You can't be a CEO of a division and not make tough decisions. And in my space, sometimes you've got to make those tough decisions, but you always got to bear the people in mind. You always got to be compassionate. You always got to be fair. And I do try and encourage that. I do try and encourage that, you know, as much
Yeah.
as possible with, you know, with whatever you have at your disposal. So I'll give you an example. You know, you could say, okay, here's COVID, and we've got 5 people too many. So if you have 5 people, we're giving you 3 months' salary. Goodbye. Okay, yeah, I mean, you could do that. That wouldn't be the right thing to do. Our way would be to go maybe to 5 people who are 63 years of age and give them a year's package, give them 12 months' salary, and say, would that be good for them? So they would maybe effectively retire at 64. Would that work for them? And if it's not, then maybe move to the next, maybe offer that to someone else. So it's a negotiation and an opportunity to right-size your business at the time. But yes, we did. There were tough times, but we did emerge quickly, and we were stronger. And as I say, the opportunity to buy the Fury Group came along, at the start of 21, and we closed it in November 21. It's been 4 years, just over.
And so, Brad, I mean, 98 to 2026, the world has changed, socioeconomic circumstances, AI, the China entering the market. I mean, you facing competition, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow in this world. I mean, how do you tackle that? How do you gear yourself and your people to,
So you have to lead and encourage that, because the world has changed. And if you get stuck in how you did it last year or 5 or 10, or when I did it a long, long time ago, you won't survive. The world is materially different in many respects. So you have to adjust. I think from a motor retail perspective, the world's easier. Your opportunity to promote your business to customers is a lot easier than it was in my day, in 1998. Way easier. So I think you've got to have your processes have got to be the best. You've got to be ahead of your competition. You let them get stuck in their ways. You've got to forge ahead, and don't resist technology, embrace it. And I have to set that tone. I have to set that culture. And then if I set that culture, then the management team set that culture, and the whole company goes with it. You will always get people that resist change. And you have to just persevere with that, because eventually they'll give in. They have no choice. If they want to stay, they're going to have to get with the program. But you've got to embrace technology. The changes in the last 27 years have been enormous. When we started 27 years ago, no one had a laptop, no such thing. The phone I had, I think, was a BlackBerry. I mean, sending a picture on a cell phone was unheard of. So there have been changes. But I think that makes life exciting. I don't see that as a threat. But you mentioned the Chinese brand, so we have adjusted. So when we bought Fury, they had one Chinese brand, which was GWM Haval. We bought 2 dealerships. We've taken on a further 3. We bought the Menden Haval. Well, we bought the building. We got that franchise from them. We bought the Hatfield Haval, and then we built a building in Sant near Investec for Haval in Sant and GWM. So we're really proud of that building. And we also have taken on Cherry. We've got one and another one opening. We've taken on 8 motor dealerships, one opening in April, 7 on the go. And, we've got a motor in Cape Town, KZN, and in Pretoria and in Johannesburg. We've taken on Tour, which is a really impressive Chinese brand, part of Cherry Automotive worldwide. We've taken on Lepas, which is a new Cherry brand launching soon or just launched. We've taken on MG, and we've now taken on a few GD dealerships. So we've kept it to the top 5 Chinese companies by world standards. We've kept it to the numbers 1 to 5, China, and we've avoided the others. If some of those others come through, we'd have got it wrong. But for now, we've stuck with those 5, and we've got multiple Chinese outlets. And it's horses for courses. Some people, will buy Haval or Cherry or Motor Jaku or BYD. I didn't mention we've got a number of BYD dealerships, and that's a brand that's going to go far. But our Volkswagen business has never been stronger. And I think last year, the national share of the Volkswagen business was over 14%. It's run by my son, Michael. He's done an unbelievable job. I put him in the trenches around for 10 years, and he's got an honors degree, and I made him work for 10 years before he got the job to run the VW franchise. He was a salesman, sales manager, dealer principal. And I've got other family in the business as well, a daughter, Jenna, and sons-in-laws as well, and daughters-in-law that work in the business. So there's always a place.
Great. I see there are questions coming in. I've already asked a couple, but one from Chaya. So just to push the point, I mean, I don't know if China's like subsidizing these Chinese cars to compete on price, and they're trying to, from from a consumer perspective, what I see is that they're really trying to kill the market by subsidizing the price somehow, and in 10 years they're going to raise the price. But is there a future? Will the German brands actually survive this onslaught? What do you think?
I think they will. I think they will. I mean, the German brands have got exceptional quality. They do. There's no question about that. And that I think what they also have, where the Japanese, for example, have struggled with most of their brands, and maybe the odd exception, is building an image. And I think the Germans have done that exceptionally well. I think that's a cultural thing. If you look at top brands in the world that come out of France, Italy, and Germany, they don't really come out of Japan or China today. And Japan has been at it for a long time, and brands are is king. You know, people want brands. So I do think the Germans will be fine, and I think it won't be all about the Chinese. Um, it's quality. Some of the Chinese quality is exceptional. I mean, a brand like GWM Marvel is performing phenomenally well. But while some of the Chinese brands have done exceptionally well in our market, there's many more that haven't fared well. Thankfully, I don't have to have too many of those there, but there are some brands that have come in here. I mean, I'm not going to mention which ones because I don't think that's fair, but there's been brands that have come into this market, been here for 5, 6, 7 years, and they're selling 200 cars a month nationally. Okay, now we don't have those brands, and thankfully we don't, because that wouldn't work for us at all. I mean, how many cars can I sell at one outlet if they've got 60 selling 200? So there are at least 7 or 8 or 10 Chinese brands that have entered South Africa and are absolutely nowhere. So they won't all make it. I think if you're
Seems
going to
like
buy
there's
Chinese,
every day almost. I see there's like a new brand that I've never heard of every
yeah.
day.
So I'll get that. They approach me all the time. I don't even reply. But
Yeah,
so the truth is that I think many of these Chinese brands won't survive. But
yeah,
I think, like I say, we've gone with the big five, and I think they will survive. And they're too big not to. And I think their brands are good, and their quality is good, and their cars are good. So it will just be a different market. Look, you had
yeah,
similar disruption. Just bear in mind, you had similar the previous time in the South African vehicle market, you had such similar disruption was in the early 90s when Hyundai and Kia arrived. The Koreans arrived with similar sort of thing. They had cars with sunroofs and leather and all the bells and whistles, and the German cars didn't. And the German cars did withstand that
yeah.
worldwide. And I think with the Chinese, it'll be a similar thing. You'll end up with 5, 6 Chinese brands by world standards that will be really powerful. And it will just make the market more competitive. And that's good for the consumer, really.
Good. Tell me, over time, has your definition of success changed, Brad? So, what did you view as a success, or what was success to you when you started out versus now?
No, I don't think it's really changed, to be honest. I think you must be happy in your life. And that is different for different people. There's no set template as to what is good for you. Everyone's different. Um, I think you've got to try and find a balance between your work, between your family, between your leisure, between watching Man United, between running comrades. I think you've got to find a balance. It's not cool just to work. It's not cool just to run all day. You've got a family that wants to see you too. So you've got to find that balance, and that I think is hard. It's not easy, but it's critical that you find that balance.
Yeah,
And the definition of success, I think, is that you're happy and that you're healthy and you lead a good lifestyle and you contribute to society. I think that's the definition of what makes you successful. Along the way, you'll do as well as you can. Try and realize your full potential, whatever that may be, and be a good person. What does it say behind you there? Rabbi Masinta stand. I've got it in my office as well. Be kind. It's a big thing. So I mean, ultimately, I don't think I've changed. I don't. I think I'm the same person that I was 30 years ago, and maybe a
okay.
little bit more confident. But other than that, I don't think I've really changed. No.
And looking back, do you feel that your journey's been something that's just happened, or something you've actively had to shape and did?
Definitely, definitely. I don't think you can just stand by and just hope that all the pieces will fall into place for you. I don't think that. I think you have to make choices. You have to make difficult decisions, and there are key moments in your life. You know, and yes, like you mentioned earlier, one of the key moments for me, firstly, the one key moment was joining Saficon, which was in the motor retail space, which was not something I planned to do. I didn't even know how that worked, to be honest. And so that was a key moment for me. And then the other key moment was leaving them 11 and a half years later and having a go on my own. It was a key moment for me. But yeah, ultimately, you've got to make you've got to make those decisions that you feel will shape your life in the right way. You can't stand by. You can't stand by and think that Ryan's going to do it for me or Brad's going to do it for Ryan or Rabbi Masinta will sort you out. Forget about it. You're going to have to make sometimes difficult choices, and sometimes you'll make decisions that are the wrong one, and that's okay. We all make mistakes and we all get things wrong, and that's how you learn. That's how you get better.
Yeah. Okay. So in a way, you saying you should definitely be the driver and not the passenger, hey? When it
Definitely,
comes to life. Yeah.
definitely. But don't try and copy the next person because
Yeah.
everybody's different. And what
For
works
sure.
for you and what makes you happy may not be the same for the next person.
Okay. Great. So I think maybe the last question is, if you had to define what it means to live responsibly or a responsible life, both in business, personally, what would that mean to you?
I think for me it means you've got to realize your full potential. I think you don't want to underachieve, and that could be that you're a mother bringing up your children, and that gives you the most self-actualization, and that's what you're going to do for the next 25 years, and that's fantastic. So, but I think you've got to realize your full potential in whatever choice you make in terms of where you go, whether it's work, whether it's in your home life. I think you've got to try and realize your full potential. Like I said earlier, very, very difficult to do because none of us will ever really know what is our potential unless we blow out. Then we know that what we attempted we weren't good enough for. That happens too. And and my advice is take it one step at a time. Don't try and change the world tonight. Just take it one day at a time. And but yes, I think you've got to shape your life, and you've got to trust your gut. We're looking at a business acquisition right now, and my in fact two, and my business partner Joe Mtimunya, he said to me, Brad, when you do the due diligence here, he said the first thing you must consider, and don't ever forget this. He said to me, consider your gut feel because that's the most important thing. And if your gut feel says no, and the one business we've said no to, and he says if that's what it says, I'm never going to ask you why. Let's just move on to the next one. So I think that does tell a story.
Yeah. Great, Brad. So I think one final thought from my side. In Hasidus, there are people who stand and people who move. We weren't created just to stand still. We were created to grow, to build, to take responsibility for our lives and those around us. And I think that what we've heard tonight, Brad, through your journey is exactly that, a life of taking risks, of moving forward and, choosing to lead and drive from the front. Because in life, you can either be a passenger, as we've discussed, or you can be the driver. So responsible living is choosing to be the driver, using your skills and your talents that you've been given. So I hope that everyone has enjoyed it tonight, and that we don't just manage the rest of our week and our weekend, but we really drive it forward. So Brad, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. It's really been thrilling. And thanks to Chabad and to Rabbi Masinta for bringing us all together this evening.
Thank you,
Thanks, everyone.
Ron. Thanks to your listeners. Okay, cheerio.
Thanks.